Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
Good morning, Dr. Ruben. That's me.
Hello,
Hi, good morning,
how are
How are you doing?
Yes, you have something juicy for us today.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got something.
It was juicy, eh?
It was. What an event. Hey, alrighty. Well, let me tell you what's happening around the world. Now, an ambush. That's the general consensus. Shows that that's how South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's visit to his US counterpart at the White House has been described. Now, Donald Trump played Ramaphosa a video that he claimed proved genocide was being committed against white people under the opposite of apartheid. Now, the video included footage of former South African President Jacob Zuma and opposition politician Julius Malema singing an apartheid-era struggle song called Kill the Boer, which means farmer or Afrikaner, as supporters dance. Now, Ramaphosa quietly but firmly pushed back, pointing out that the views expressed in the video are not government policy. And there was also footage that Trump claimed showed the graves of more than 1,000 white farmers marked by white crosses. Trump then produced a batch of newspaper articles that he said were from the last few days, reporting on killings in South Africa. Here is what Cyril Ramaphosa had to say in response.
What you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
and
take land.
then when they take the land.
Well, Ramaphosa did acknowledge that there is crime in South Africa and said that the majority of victims are actually black. Now, in the room was Trump's South Africa-born billionaire ally Elon Musk, as well as J.D. Vance, and the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, as well as diplomats and journalists from both countries, from both the United States and South Africa. Now, Ramaphosa arrived at the White House with his Agriculture Minister, John Steenhuisen, who is white, two of South Africa's top golfers, Ernie Els and Retief Goosen, and the country's wealthiest person, Johan Rupert, all in a bid to woo the golf-loving president. Now, they all weighed in during the Oval Office meeting and seemed to be well received by Trump. And when leaving the White House, Ramaphosa did tell journalists that he thought that the meeting went well, and he said he felt as though Donald Trump had heard him. Now, moving on to another story that happened very late on Wednesday. Now, police in Washington, D.C. have identified the suspect believed to be responsible for the shooting death of two Israeli embassy staff who were killed outside a Jewish museum in downtown D.C. late on Wednesday in United States time, but obviously very early in the morning here in Nigeria. Now, the victims, which was actually a couple, a man and a woman, they were shot while exiting an event at the Capital Jewish Museum. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations called the incident a depraved act of anti-Semitic terrorism, and 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago remains in custody. Police say that he was chanting Free Palestine after the shooting when he was arrested. Now, I was listening to some witness testimony. It did say that the alleged suspect, after the incident, came into the museum along with people and appeared to be shaken up and then started chanting Free, Free Palestine once the police arrived there.
Well, where do we start from, Femi? I feel very, very sad about what happened yesterday. And I feel disappointed in Cyril Ramaphosa. Yes. I knew he came with the approach of, I have to be restrained, but for a bully, you don't do that. He'll ambush you, and he'll ambush you with a lot of lies. I do not know, Vimba, Dr. Batsi, that an American president now spreads fake news and lies. I'm shocked that an American president lies. And I'll give you the facts. That video was not representation of what Trump said. They were not graves. there were a protest of crosses lined up across the street when Rafiti, a white farmer, was killed. And they were just videoed at that point in time. And even Google Maps Earth has shown that those crosses have since been removed because it was just used for protest, and he took a video of it. Guess what? South African Race Research Relations Institute has ratified that they were not graves. So I'm shocked that nobody in the White House could show President Trump that was fake news. And the president of a free world, or the leader of the free world, played a fake video to make a justification yesterday, and he misrepresented the video. That's a new low for the world. You can go and check it, verify it. I had to go and research it. That video has been debunked. They were not graves. They were crosses put there on the road as a protest. As a memorial. They were not graves. Secondly, kill the boy, Vimbai. You know the courts had their say on that. And that's why I'm disappointed that Cyril Ramaphosa could not push back. South African court also went ahead to say that there's nothing like white genocide. In fact, you have 45 out of 100,000 crime rates. A sizable number of that, about just 1% of the white farmers are killed. More of the percentage are the black people.
Which
And even when they called up the Agric minister, the leader of the DA, Johnny Boy, he was talking from right to left, pivoting. So it was all a grand ambush. Johan Rupert uses religion, and Johan Rupert is one of the, apart from Dangote, I think the second richest man in Africa. He owns Richmond. He worked in Lazard Brothers in the 70s. He's been investment banking boy and all of that. So has the wealth, has everything, friends with Trump. They just ambushed Zuma. They're saying they want to come back to, and Els too was saying that. He was a total eyesore spread with fake news. And a lot of those booklets Trump was showing were Daily Mail, New York Post, for an American president. If they told me that this will happen in my lifetime, that an American president showed fake news in the whole, and that's when the guy asked him about Qatar, he started to abuse the journalists and all of that. I say the media should be talking. The media should be talking about fake news and American presidents.
Yeah, but that journalist was off topic. That journalist was off topic. Okay,
and you support this Trump guy.
Where do I begin with this?
Yeah,
No. I think, there's been a lot of debate, especially around the land issue, because ultimately we have to remember that this is about land redistribution. Africa was colonized, and land was seized from the black man violently. And now some sort of redress needs to be done to return that land back to black people, whilst accommodating white people as well. We saw the Mugabe style. Now, if this had been Mugabe, maybe there would have been fists in the White House last night. So people are saying that Cyril Ramaphosa took a cue from the Mugabe aggressive stance and said, let me try a different stance. Let me try something a little bit more subdued, and let me take this big delegation to see how we can navigate what has become a very tricky issue. Unfortunately, in doing so, the general consensus is that he has sold out the black man, because he was unable to stand on the principle that land must be reallocated. He was unable to drive the point home that there is historical injustice and transformation is required to ensure that there's a balance in the share and equity where land redistribution is concerned in South Africa, and that in doing so, they will ensure that no criminality is perpetuated. Now, I'll go to the golfers who were, clearly at the invitation of Donald Trump, who honestly just made the case worse for Cyril Ramaphosa. I was embarrassed for him because he thought he had allies, and they started to chime into this narrative that, they don't feel safe. But I'm glad that Johan Rupert was able to come and say, listen, I sleep with my doors unlocked. I'm even building cottages for my grandchildren on farms, meaning he has access to land and he's not under any threat as a white man. And I'm glad he also pointed to that Minister of Agriculture and told him that, in fact, the highest crime rate is in your own province, in Western Cape, and it's gang warfare. That's the crime we have an issue with, not genocide against white farmers. Overall, though, On a lighter note, I had to burst out laughing the moment they started playing those videos, and I heard Julius Malema, I just said to myself, is this what we're doing? It was extremely dramatic. But the context of that, see, Southern African countries, our independence is still very fresh in our mindsets. Our revolution, our liberation struggles are still very, very tender in our memories. If you go to even sporting events, you'll find that we sing war cries. They are a thing of joy and pride to us. And this case has been taken to court. Is Kill the Boer an inflammatory and insightful song? No, it's not. It's something that we sing as a reminder that our revolution is not yet complete. And the black man must be emancipated, empowered economically, whether it be through land, whether it be through corporate governance, whether it be whatever it is. The black man deserves to have those historical imbalances redressed, and it's unfortunate that this outing seems to have done the opposite of that.
Okay, I speak as a student of international diplomacy, and that's where I'm coming from. And that is why I do not agree with all the persons who have been condemning President Cyril Ramaphosa, who say that he was too submissive, he was humiliated, he was treated badly. Yes, we all agree that he was ambushed. Yes. But I think that he was calm and he handled the situation very well. You will recall that President Trump has developed a reputation for treating visiting foreign leaders shabbily. The most dramatic example being the way he treated President Zelensky of Ukraine in February. In fact, Zelensky was walked out of the White House. But where Zelensky failed, Ramaphosa succeeded. And how did he succeed? By being very diplomatic. He went there with friends of Trump, the golfers, and also Rupert, the luxury goods retailer, you know, who is also a friend of Trump, and who helped to open the door to the White House. And then, of course, his objective was to reset the relationship with South Africa, to work on bilateral relations with America, which is the primary power in the world. In other words, in that room, it would not have been in the interest of Cyril Ramaphosa to do more than what he did. The United States expelled South African envoy to America, withheld aid to South Africa, raised objections about, South Africa, saying South Africa is anti-United States, for saying that it's also against the policies of South Africa, of the United States, particularly in the Middle East, South Africa having gone to the ICJ. Ramaphosa himself has issues. He was chairman of MTN from 2002 to 2013. MTN internationally is linked to Iran. Iran is not a friend of the United States. So that's why I think Ramaphosa played the game very well. He played up golf. He even took a book about golf sites in South Africa to Trump. He massaged his ego.
Yes.
He told him he too is a golfer and all of that.
Yes.
Now, when he was now ambushed, he was ready. And he was able to push back on all those points. He says there is no genocide in South Africa. He says, too, even if Elon Musk is looking for Starlink license, he hasn't applied. And if he applies, the affirmative action law of 30% will apply, whether it's Elon Musk or whoever in the world. 3, he debunked the video showing Julius Malema of the EFF. He said, look, that's not government policy. And Julius Malema's EFF is not even part of the coalition, the governing coalition in South Africa. But there is, multi-party democracy in South Africa. Yes. There is freedom of expression. Correct. So these small parties are also allowed to speak. I thought that was very clever. At the end of the day, he came out and he said, oh, it went very well. He was not kicked out. In fact, Trump was so comfortable with him, he kept him in the White House for 3 hours. And in fact, they had their lunch together, So I think the food was very good.
They said the food was good.
Oh, well, what do you expect? But in other words, what I'm saying is that from the point of view of diplomacy, it was a successful outing. Ramaphosa has opened the door. The conversations will continue. Mm-hmm. South African interests, he has helped to defend it. Mm-hmm. Now, whether deals were worked out or not, We don't have any details because we don't have full details of what happened at the lunch meeting. And South Africans can be proud of their president. He even dressed very well. He didn't go there like Zelensky wearing gym clothes as if he's coming from some roadside
Somebody that's
event.
at war, he should be wearing fila and wearing selling something.
Imagine Dr. Abati, the president that's at war should wear suit and tie.
But I'm saying Ramaphosa.
Really?
Ramaphosa also played the sartorial part of it. I think it was a good outing for South Africa. As for the killings at the Jewish Museum, very unfortunate. Just shows you the risk, the spread, the scale of anti-Semitism as a result of the conflict in Gaza with Israel. But the U.S. authorities would have said they will investigate this and that whoever was responsible, some good man wearing blue jeans, will be apprehended and it will be sanctioned accordingly. We cannot support violence or hate of any sort, whether it's anti-Semitism or it is apartheid, and that is why the South Africans are saying the issue in South Africa is not race, it is crime. I think they succeeded in getting that message across.
Well, thank you all for your great submissions. Let's move on to the newspapers. As ever, we begin with This Day this morning. This Day does lead this morning with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association yesterday complaining over the continued decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria to keep the MPR, that's the monetary policy rate, at 27.5% since November 2024. That's despite a global wave of interest rate reductions aimed at revitalizing economic productivity and combating stagflation. Specifically, the LCCI stressed that the current MPR level was too high for private sector development. It says Nigeria now has the sixth most expensive credit market globally. Now, the New Telegraph leads with the prospect of a 2027 coalition and why the likes of Atiku, who is the former, Atiku Abubakar, of course, the former vice president, and the 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, won't adopt the PDP. Now, we have seen reports that both gentlemen, along with former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai and other political leaders, have now agreed to adopt the African Democratic Congress as the primary coalition party to challenge President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the 2027 election. Now, that move is also picked up by both the Daily Independent and the Daily Trust, which refers to the ADC as a new bride. In terms of insecurity, though, the Punch leads with the Senate and Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum on Wednesday, who urged President Bola Tinubu to take urgent measures against the renewed terrorist attacks in the northeast. Zulum advised the president to rely more on the professional judgment of the military rather than political voices in the fight against Boko Haram insurgents. Similarly, The Guardian leads with more lines out of that Taraba International Investment Summit in Jalingo yesterday, as Zulum voiced the need to boost investment in the country. Zulum also accused certain military officers and politicians of acting as informants and collaborators for Boko Haram terrorists.
Okay, we gotta go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Always
Wade.
a pleasure.
Thank you.